Okay, this is yoga therapy for COVID shoulders, part 1. You may be one of many people whose shoulders have been giving you quite a bit of trouble since we've been less active in COVID. We've been eating more sugar, we've been sitting at our computers, and we're stressed. So we've been increasing our inflammation. And for a lot of people, including me, it seems to have settled in the shoulders, producing some pain and stiffness and decreased range of motion. So for these practices, you will need a yoga block. And if you don't have a yoga block, a box of Kleenex will do just fine. Yeah? You need something light. So in this series, I'll be using a block and we'll be doing what's called closed kinematic chain movements. And what that means is that the end of the limb is pressing against something, a surface, and that creates a loop in the structure. And what closed kinematic chains do is they increase the stability of the joint by making the head of the humerus more central in the socket. And they also more precisely pattern motor control because of the more specific way that the muscles have to, and the myofascia has to activate. And you also have to think a lot more as you do these movements because I will give you very specific instructions. Okay, so the first movement is simply, we'll be using figure 8 movements. And with all of these movements, I invite you to keep the block in the same orientation throughout the whole movement, even as you're moving it. So the first movement, and starting very small, is simply making a figure 8 in a sort of neutral zone, shoulder height, and experimenting a little bit with how far you can go comfortably. Now, some of you may find that it's easier to hold your block this way, more comfortable, or this way. Or even some people might find that having the elbows close together and the elbows and the wrist together feels more comfortable. Each one brings something different. If you can do them all, I invite you to play with it. So getting back to the movement, figure 8s, and experimenting a little bit with the range and keeping the block oriented frontally the whole time. Now pressing into the block a little bit, which helps to centrate that shoulder joint, and experimenting with how far can you go comfortably without moving your body. So your body is stabilized so that your whole shoulder girdle is moving on your fixed body. So then going the other direction, and again, it's a little bit challenging to keep the block oriented frontally the whole time because the tendency is to want to tilt it. Good. And maybe going in one direction feels different than going in the other direction. As you're doing the movement, noticing, what does that feel like? What can I feel moving? How much of my body is involved in this movement? Can I feel something happening in my waist, in my belly? Can I feel this movement all the way down to my feet? And then take a break. And you might be surprised at just how much energy is buzzing around or how tired your arms are. So take as long a break as you need to. So the next movement will be a vertical figure eight. So again, now you still want to hold the block absolutely frontal. As you start small, moving the block just up and down around your face and chest. Peekaboo. Pressing into the block. The tendency is to want to lighten up certain areas of the pressure, and then starting to experiment a little bit with range. And as you increase the range, does your pressure tend to lighten up? Keep that pressure gentle, not with all your might. And then going the other direction. It's really challenging to keep that block facing absolutely frontal without tilting it. And can you breathe through all of this? What does your breath have to do with it? If you find yourself holding your breath, then you're probably using too much effort. Good. And letting that go. Having a little break, noticing what are the consequences of that? Where do you feel it? I can feel some energy moving up my neck and a little probably circulation happening there, and definitely in my shoulders. Okay, so the last movement in this part one is figure eights, but away from the body and towards the body. And this is even more challenging to keep the block frontal. I have to keep the movement very small. It's very precise. I have to use a lot of motor control as I do this. I can really feel my shoulders and my neck working as I do this. And then going the other direction. And really, you can do these movements just for a minute each, and then letting that go. And I can feel lots of prana, lots of energy moving in my neck, in my shoulders, in my upper back, in my jaw, my face. What do you notice? And if you have been in pain, then do a movement gently that activated that pain. For me, it was external rotation and moving back, and oh, I don't feel that right now. So trial a movement that you may have had difficulty with. Just see if it made any difference. And if it feels good, then please put this in your repertoire. Part 2 coming up.